Go.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance, or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
We decided to film the sonnet in the chapel because of the whole Petrarchan idolisation of a loved one, similar to the worship and worship of God. The thought about the perfect image of the pure and virtuous woman in the church windows, such as the Virgin Mary, was linking back to the whole way that the sonnets idolise women and the gods.
However, we also thought that having it filmed in a church contrasted to some of the concepts of Petrarchanism, because when you look in the Bible, it is a sin to idolise anything or anyone apart from God, which is what Petrarchanism is essentially doing. So therefore, there's some moral clashes. There's also some darkness within the sonnet in possession of that fair. This is quite a vain and coveting attitude towards women, which again is quite sinful.
The way in which Claire reads it, if you look at it in a sorrowful tone, it could be mourning the woman that she's talking about, and between lines 8 and 11, it's the defiance of her death, and how, in this quote, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, he's trying to immortalise her and insist that she will live on quite desperately.
Well, if the Clare did read it in a very sort of subdued and sad tone, but if it had been read in a more positive tone, it could have also been seen as an expression of joy, because people in Victorian times would have just gone to church just to express any emotion, whether it be joy or sadness. So it could just be an expression of joy, and praying that she will be immortalised in time because of this feeling that he's loving this feeling of loving her, and he wants to cling on to it, and he's scared to lose her. So therefore this poem is comforting him that she will be immortalised and she will continue on. Running with the idea that the poem immortalises her, the setting of the chapel infers the immortalisation of a person through heaven, which is a similar aim of the poem and religion. It's the idea of an afterlife and living on. In the case of the sonnet 18, it's living on through poem, living on through Shakespeare's words. And in the case of religion, it's living on in heaven by sort of getting to heaven by committing good deeds, having good morals. Religion is also timeless. It's an idea of something bigger than present time, which is something that could have been comforting to Shakespeare, or when he was writing it, if we're running with this idea of religion. She's also kept alive in the sonnet, or prayer as we suggested, by saying, this gives life to thee. The line, all too short a date, also creates that sort of connection between mortal and immortal, an idea quite recurrent in the idea of religion.
We chose Claire to read the poem because, well, mainly she's a good reader, but also we wanted a fresh image of the poem through new eyes. So she does English, but she hasn't yet learned about Shakespeare's sonnet, so we just thought that getting it through new eyes would bring a new perspective and just kind of fresher, instead of making us do it who've studied it. Then it made it easier to analyse and then taken more seriously because we didn't read it ourselves. Though we were worried due to the aspect that she was a woman, though it's because, Shakespeare is a man, but then there was no actual reference to her in specific, and the sun is actually made into a man, so it could be addressed to a man, so it could be viewed either way. Also, another note is that she could be seen as quite anti-Petrarchan because of her dark eyes and dark hair, and so this is interesting to contrast due to the poem containing the words such as summer day shines and actually fair 3 times, which contrasts to this image of Claire, who's much darker and paler, and the fact that the quotation gold complexion is also said in this, which could relate to tanned skin and the much darker qualities.
Okay.
Shall I compare you to a summer's day? You are more lovely and more constant. Rough winds shake the beloved buds of May, and summer's far too short. At times the sun is too hot, and often goes behind the clouds. And everything beautiful sometime will lose its beauty, by misfortune or by nature's planned out course. But your youth shall not fade, nor will you lose the beauty that you possess, nor will death claim you for his own, because in my eternal verse, you will live forever. So long as there are people on this earth, so long will this poem live on, making you immortal.